And then the last one's a bit more of like a ravey sound. And in the original song, there's like a section where it's closed like this. And there's a section where it's open. I just linked them together and kind of automated them so that you could hear the range of the sound. And so the thought process behind this sound is just to make something really detuned and noisy and kind of like old school ravey. And so let me take you through how we did that. Turn one of these off. Okay, I'm going to turn off the filter, the second oscillator, and I'm just going to bring down this to 0. And we're going to turn off the unison. Okay, so now we just have a basic shape here. This just a saw wave. And we're adding in a second oscillator. And so this is a white noise oscillator, but it's a wavetable, so it's not actually generating white noise. It's just basically freezing the waveform in a single cycle and then repeating that cycle. So it doesn't sound like white noise, but it still has a bit of the character of white noise, which is what I wanted. And if we have a look at the amp envelope, we're doing a decay of 430 milliseconds and sustain of -6. And you can see I have this macro mapped to multiple things. I'm going to take you through the macro mapping at the end of the sound design stage. Don't worry too much about these things moving around with the green dot, because I will show you them at the end of this. Okay, so next we're going into this filter. And you can see the frequency is brought all the way down to 29. And then what we're doing is we're using this envelope 2 shape to control the filter. And you can map that here in the matrix by clicking on frequency and then setting the envelope 2 amount to 78. And then if you click on envelope 2 here, we can go in and shape that. I've set the global amount to 0 just so that you can hear how the sound sounds without that. But I'm going to bring that back up to 100 now. So that's how this should sound now for you. So your sound might not be as snappy and distorted as mine, or driven, and that's just because I'm using this MS2 filter here. That enables filter drive, so you can turn up the drive here. Originally it'll sound like this. Then we set MS2 and just bring up the drive. Okay, and then another thing that I'm modulating here, you can see envelope 3 is modulating the pitch. So if we click on envelope 3, it's a really tight envelope, set to 7 milliseconds. And we're modulating it by 18. And that's just going to create a little bit more punch on the sound. And then the final part of the sound is to enable this noise unison, and that's going to give it that really nice detune. And especially when the filter's open. And that's set to 70%. So that really makes it like nice and ravey and detuned. Okay, let's go over the macro setup that I did over here. So when you initially have this wavetable open, you'll have to hit Control G, and then it'll dump it into this instrument rack where you'll have macros available. So it'll probably look something like this. And then what we do is we click on Map, and that opens up this mappings window. And then we can click on certain parameters and map them. So what I've done is I've clicked on the frequency over here, a frequency cutoff over here, and you can see here that's mapped. You see all our different mappings here, and we can set the minimum and maximum amounts. So if you click on that and then you map it to, you just basically click like this, it'll map it to, I'm using macro 1, but I'll just show you again with macro 2. So we can map it to macro 2, and then we set the positive and negative amounts. We want the minimum amount to be 20 Hertz and the maximum probably 20,000. And then when we start to move this, it'll move the filter open and closed. Oh, sorry, this one. It'll open the filter. Okay, So that's just showing you how to do the mappings. I'm just going to undo what I've done and bring it all back to how it was. Okay, so now I'm just going to take you through all the different mappings that we have over here. So the first one is oscillator to gain. So under oscillator 2, you click on this one and then you map it. And we have the minimum amount at 0 dB and the maximum at -infinity. So as we turn this up, this dial goes down. And that's because when this filter's open, I don't want to hear this white noise oscillator anymore. And then the next one is this filter frequency, and I've already shown you that. So at the minimum amount, we want it at 20 Hertz, and the maximum we want it at 10 kilohertz. And then the next mapping is envelope 2, sustain. So if we go to envelope 2, you can see you can click on the S over here and map it to macro 1. And then as I move this up, we want the sustain to increase. And so here the amounts, 50% and 100%. And then the last mapping is envelope 3 decay. So envelope 3, if you remember, is controlling the pitch attack. So at the start of the sound has this nice like little pitchy sound to it. But what happens when you open up that filter is you really start to hear that pitch a lot more. So what I wanted to do was just decrease the decay time so that it becomes inaudible. So it gets decreased to 1.5 milliseconds. You can see the maximum is 1.5 milliseconds, the minimum is 9 milliseconds. So you can see that envelope close. Okay, then I'm just going to re-enable automation, and you can see the automation that I did over here. So the macro starts to open up towards the end. Okay, so that's it for the mapping of the macros and for all the sound design within the synth. Okay, then next up we're going into an OTT. And that's just compressing the whole signal and bringing up frequencies that were quiet and turning down frequencies that were loud. Basically just flattening out the sound a bit. But it's only in a small amount here, 33%. You can exaggerate it to hear what it's doing. Just makes it sound very compressed. So I'm just mixing it in just a bit. And then I didn't want it as wide, so I'm using utility to bring down the width to 20%. And then EQ8 to take out some of that low end. And a little bit of a roll off on the top. And then some reverb. And then a delay. Probably should have put the delay before the reverb. Okay, and that's it for this entire sound. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned a thing or two, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.